Do you know that today is Ronald Reagan's birthday?
Oh, no.
I think, let me see.
88 years old.
February 6th, right? And in the last section, I meant to read you some quotations. These are about Ronald Reagan by some of his friends, and I won't say enemies, but even his friends and Ronald teased a lot each other. So Bob Hope said about Ronald Reagan is not a typical politician because he doesn't know how to lie, cheat, and steal. He always had an agent for that. Jonathan Hunt said, and I'm not sure if that's a friend or not, he says, in a disastrous fire, this is more like a news item, disastrous fire in President Reagan's library, both books were destroyed. And the real tragedy is that he hadn't finished coloring one of them. Mort Saul, the political comedian, said, Ronald Reagan is proof there's life after death. And let's see. On hearing that Ronald Reagan was elected governor of California, Jack Warner said about Ronald Reagan, it's our fault. He's in the movie industry. We should have given him better parts. Now, this is an interesting book. This is called Witty Words. I'm not sure if it's still in print, but it has interesting and funny things for every day of the year. So if you are presenting on a certain day, you go to this book and you may be able to use things like that. It tied perfectly in with the Ronald Reagan building where we're going to have this big bash. So it's a real interesting, it's Witty Words by Eileen Mason. And I think they're still in print.
They're also common in
In used
used bookstores.
bookstores. I mean, a lot of these were in print, so you can find them. And used book searches are good too, if you've ever used that. If I want a book, I call up some of the bookstores and they'll put it on an electronic search. Sometimes a couple years later, I come up with a book that, yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's not a big hurry on that, but if it's a hard to get book, you can find it. Now, I want to show you some other things that I have available for you today. You know that all the admission fees minus the cost of the seminar will go directly to cystic fibrosis. The last count before I got here, that should be in excess of about $2,000. So give yourselves a round of applause for that. I'm hoping that the information you take away from you, each one of you, should be more than that per speech if you put it into action, especially after we get into the Speak for Money part. Now, some other things that are happening today, any product purchase you make today or educational material purchase, 50% of that will go to cystic fibrosis. Now, the books that you happen to have in your hand, if you buy one of those, I would feel very remiss in sending you home with a used book, even though you used it, okay? So, if in fact you buy a book today, you will take the one that you're using and a brand new revised edition, brand spanking new. So basically a 2-for-1. Okay, well, at the break or something, Brandy and maybe Nancy will help out with this. So that's the deal on that one. I hope you're getting a little bit of value out of this book. I only put 3 years of sweat and blood into this thing. Another book that's a great book, this is actually one of my mentors. This is Margaret Bedrosian, and wow, is she a storyteller. She tells a story, Nancy, you know that story that she tells with her college-age kid going to school, and she has you on the edge of your chair, and she talks about the seat belt. She's going to graduation, and when that click of the seat belt going to that graduation, how the whole reflection of this time with this child went, I mean, just really has you mesmerized. This is her book, Speak Like a Pro, and also half of this will go to cystic fibrosis. Now, I'm not sure, are you taking the money for this? Okay, Nancy will take the money for this. You take Visa, MasterCard, and all that? This is check or cash. Hey, I got it up on Maggie, don't I? So anyway, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, on anything else. And if you like to listen to audios, this is a 6-tape audio album, 4.5 hours. It also has a a checklist on room setups and resources with it, and it's a 4.5-hour audio album. All of that, 50% off for, or 50% to cystic fibrosis. So hopefully you'll take advantage of that. I know from experience that you're never going to remember this high, shooting all this stuff into your brain all at once. This is how you take a consultant home with you, okay? I can think of better ways, but this is the only way I've got for you today. Now, one other thing I have available for you, I invented another thing called a speaker training junket. And Jeff Miller just went on the last one with me to Anaheim, California. And this is where you travel to an engagement, speaking engagement with me, with training ahead of time, and then training during the trip, and then training at the site, and then follow up after the program. I got 2 slots available for a trip to Monterrey, Mexico at the end of this month. So if anybody is interested in really advanced training and moving up fast in the speaking world, this would be an opportunity that you could do that. I just want to show you a couple of these visuals that I didn't get to. This is an example of one of the custom ones with a quotation on it. I messed it up and I covered the guy's name because he didn't authorize me to show this to you. So that was a quotation. It was framed and used during the seminar and then given to him. All right, this was one I messed up somehow. This is another one. This is a cartoon that I pulled out of Corel Draw, a simple program that has a bunch of clip art with it, and put a custom caption in on it for it. And so I gave that to the person afterwards. So it's a fun way to use your visuals. Now here's one. This is sometimes it's nice to have an opening slide ready to go when people come into the room. Well, it was a hotel place I was doing, and this one says, "The guest is always right, even if we have to throw him out." That's by Charles Ritz. A quote from him. So that applied to the hotel industry. So that's a fun way to use. Great to see you back. All right, bright and shiny bunch. Well, this is a segment that I have done quite literally all over the United States at about 25 chapters of the National Speakers Association, where I teach other professional speakers how to really use humor to their advantage. Not as a stand-up comedian, but as a serious business presenter, using humor to add to your business presentations. There's lots of benefits to doing it, one of which is to give people a respite from heavy material, one of which is to make you more likable, build rapid rapport with them. So there's many benefits that you can derive by using humor besides just the entertainment value. It also makes your points more memorable. There's been studies that show that information delivered with humor is sometimes up to 15% more memorable than the same information delivered in a straight or just straight content fashion. So we're going to learn the nitty-gritty techniques of that today. Now, we talked in an earlier tape, in an earlier segment, about introductions. Well, I'm going to show you a fun way to do an introduction. We talked about self-introductions when you don't have anybody to help you. Well, since we have video equipment set up now, and many of you in your training sessions have a TV monitor or a video machine ready to go, you can create a video introduction. Now I have one that I'm really proud of, and I'm going to load it up here and show it to you right now. Well, you can see when I'm on the job, we have fun. But don't take my word for it. Here's what one of the top meeting planners in the country has to say about me.
We have used Tom Antion at every annual meeting and social function my organization has held for the past 5 years. In fact, I wouldn't use another speaker if you held a gun to my head. Is that good enough?
We have ways of making you give good testimonials. What are you doing with that camera? Get that camera out of here! Well, as you can see, I don't take myself too seriously. And that's the first lesson you need to have about humor, is you can't be afraid of being up here and making a fool of yourself. You've got to stretch your limits a little bit to be able to use this effectively, because if you show any lack of confidence, the crowd will jump up and tear your throat out, okay? So You want to be confident and just do it, and they will go where you lead. All right? So, but this is a fun way to do a simple introduction. And you can use self-effacing humor, which is a very powerful form of humor where you tease yourself. The earlier you do that in a presentation, the faster you will gain rapport and people will like you better. Now, what you don't want to do is tease yourself about what I call your source of credibility. In other words, if you were a nuclear power plant technician, you would not tease about the time you pushed the wrong button. Okay? This is not good. This reduces your credibility, right? You might tease about, like I tease about my, can't keep track of my socks and all these other things. If you have an interesting physical characteristic, you could tease about that. I mean, if you are absent-minded, if you forget your keys, all those types of things are fair game as long as they don't go to your source of credibility. Makes people like you because everybody out there has these troubles too. And if you're the Mr. or Miss Perfect up here, then they disconnect from you because nobody's perfect. And the more you can show that to them, the more they like it. What we're going to do in this next segment is I'm going to show you a showcase. This is a showcase that I actually shot about 5, 6, I don't know, 7 years ago maybe at National Capital Speakers Association, where I knew I was developing this program, so I put a bunch of techniques all into about 11 minutes that's going to take us 30 or 40 to critique. And I don't want you to try to be me. If you tried to be me, you would fail miserably, just as I would fail miserably trying to be you. All right, so what I want you to do is extract the techniques, and I'm going to help you so that you can pick one of them, put your material in it, and plug it into your presentation. Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to freeze frame certain areas, and we're going to interact with the video. This is also one of the best models you'll see of how you use video in training. You don't put a video on and then go check your voicemail. Okay, this is not training. Okay. You interact with it, and you'll see how we go back and forth. Sometimes I won't even go a couple seconds till I have another tip to throw in. It'll keep it fairly lively as we go. So I'm going to switch tapes here. Can everybody see okay? Can everybody hear that first segment okay? Okay, good.
So are those standard videos you're putting in there, or is that another format?
No, this is just plain VHS. I happen to, in the later section, you're going to see some of my really cool videos, color-coded and all that. But it's just the VHS video. That's just the case is different. So these are just regular videos, VHS. And we're going to pick this up in an earlier tape, an earlier segment today. I talked to you about test humor. Remember that? How you use a piece of test humor when you're off stage, you're watching for the audience reaction. So in this case, David Rich, another professional member of the Speakers Association, is introducing me. And we're going to pick it up. I cut out part of the introduction. We're going to pick it up right near the test humor. I got to find right there. It is. Okay. See, Warren, okay?
A frequent keynote speaker before all types of business and civic groups. The last time he spoke, the audience was glued to their seats. Well, Tom did this to make sure no one left.
Okay, are we sure that's loud enough back there? Hold on.
Profitable way to manage our.
Okay, you sure you can hear that back there okay? Okay. Now, I've got a whole load of those on the website in the speaker humor section, so if you want any test humor, and some of it's just for females, some of it's for guys, some of it can go either way. So you just take a piece, and you don't need more than 2 or 3 pieces of this, because if you go back to a group the second time, you don't want to use the same piece, so you need another piece. If you go back the third time, you should have been taking notes on how the presentation went, and you should already know the nature of the group, and you don't even have to do this. They might want you to, but you don't have to for the third time you go back. Test humor.
Antioch! Wow, what a great introduction. Wasn't that great? Good night. Did my mother send that to you?
I know she did. You know, she's always pulling those tricks. Okay, that was what? When I said something to David. The response to your introduction. Now, it was an only 11-minute showcase. I didn't go into a big deal about it, but I thanked him. I used the oldest one in the book. My mother must have written that for you to say something that good about me. But there's lots of them out there in your reference books for speakers. But respond some way in case to your introduction. Thank them, whatever it is, respond to them. That's the first thing you develop. I am thrilled to be here with you today. When I first started speaking, I never dreamed that I would ever be good enough to be invited to speak to a great association like this. You know, when I first started, I think it was my first paid presentation, the whole audience asked for a glass of water. So, okay, now, do you remember in an earlier segment we talked about using bits and chunks and series as short pieces of your information that you've memorized and practiced 30 to 50 times. The way you use it in humor is you try to use what they call the rule of 3. You will use 3 jokes, 3 stories. You'll see 3 coming all the time. It has kind of a cadence. And you can use it in serious material too, like friends, Romans, countrymen, those kinds of things. So it has a nice cadence. Now, what you saw here was the setup of a bit. I said, I never dreamed that I'd be good enough to speak here. That was the setup. And then I'm going to do 3 pieces of humor. Now, you saw that I didn't get much response on that first one, right? Well, what happens is these, if you expanded one of these peaks and made it like this, I want to push people up to the top of this peak. Now, what you try to do is you try to use all your humor good, but some is going to be better than others. You take the worst of the good and put it as the first one and get them moving. And you're going to see the next 2, you're going to hear they get a little bit more reaction because they're starting to catch on to my pace, my style, and that I'm being fun with them. You're going to see them pushed right up this peak. Okay? Here we go. That was the first piece. Here's the second. It was a bad situation. And then one time I was at a banquet, and the meeting planner came running up to me and started tugging on my coat. She said, will you shut up? You're interrupting the busboys. Can you hear more laughter? I was too dumb to have stage fright. I should have known there was a problem when the whole audience started doing the wave one time. I think they were singing Happy Trails to You. Okay, that bit is now done. I wasn't good enough to be a speaker. Here's 3 things that I messed up as I was a speaker. Now, I'm going to change bits. I'm going to say, you'll see the setup for the next bit now. I think I'll do a little bit better for you today than I did back then. That's the setup. I love being a speaker because when you're a speaker, you get to go places you normally couldn't afford in real life. One of the old-time speakers, Bill Gove, would say he loved to go places where the napkins in the main dining room had better cloth than he had in his suit. Okay, now this is something that will make you a winner or a loser. This is called attribution. Now, Bill Gove happens to be one of the founding fathers of my professional association. If I would just use his line that he's best known for as my own, I would be known as a copycat speaker and stealing material. And Bill Gove was sitting in the middle of the Florida Speakers Association when I did this, and he was tickled pink that I'm out there on the road mentioning his name, okay? I gave attribution to where I got it, and then I piggybacked with my own humor. This will keep you high on the scale. If people get the word out that it's just a copycat speaker, your fees will not rise, and they might as well just hire the real speaker rather than bring you in, right? Okay, attribution. But my favorite place to go is one of those hotels that has a telephone mounted on the wall in the bathroom. Anybody ever been to a place like that? You know, I love that because I can go in there and sit down, dial up somebody I really don't like, and honestly say, hey, I was just thinking about you. Okay, a lot going on right there. In storytelling, or in joke telling, the least amount of words is better. Unless you're a really great exaggeration storyteller, the least amount of words to get to the punchline is what you want to use. And the way you eliminate words, this is how you do it right here, is you act out what the story does. Now, I didn't have to say, I reached over and picked up the receiver of the phone and brought it to my head, did I? You just saw me doing it, and you filled in the blanks. I talked to the phone like I was on a telephone conversation. I slammed it back down, all right? All of these cut out the words so that you can get to the punchline faster. So cut out the words, and one of the most powerful techniques that's the biggest pain in the rump that you'll ever have is transcribing your stories. And what that means is you tell a story live, on tape, whatever, then you transcribe it word, for syllable, for repeats of whatever you said, and get it all down on paper, and it'll be one of the most telling experiences you ever had in your storytelling. Because you'll see all the extra words you put in, you'll see the times you repeated yourself, you'll see words you could cut out, you'll see words you could switch, or sentences that belong better over here than over there. And this time is worth it, because sometimes a story, you can use it for the rest of your career. So it's worth getting it right, and it will evolve over a period of time. As sometimes people yell stuff from the crowd for me, and I say, that was a good line, and then I'll start using it later. So the time that you put into your stories is well worth it, all right? So act them out, cut out the words. And then when you're a speaker, you get to meet wonderfully interesting people from all over the world. I was doing a series of presentations at Chinese University in Hong Kong. And on the last day, a lovely Chinese student came up to me and gave me a bouquet of flowers. And in her broken English, she said, "These flowers will soon die, but you will smell forever." I was touched by that. Okay, I got to run this back and show you a couple critical points here. Okay, hold on. Oh, missed it. All right, first of all, same way, I was acting out the story. I was looking at the bouquet lovingly that was supposedly in my hand. The way I got the story is a joke book story. And this is called personalization and localization. I saw this punchline and this joke in a joke book. But see, if you just use something out of a joke book, every other speaker might see it and use it also. So what you do is you put yourself in the story. And the only experience I had was the time I spent at Chinese University in Hong Kong. And so I just wove this punchline around that situation in Hong Kong. And when you're doing humor, you're not giving a history lesson up here, so you don't have to tell exactly how it happened, and it doesn't make any difference. Now, you don't lie about facts and your credentials, but in humor, you've got this twisted a little bit to get the laugh out of it. So that's what happened there. Let's see. Oh, and the critical part, I got to back it up and land it on just one little piece of this. All right, whenever I deliver the punchline, I'm going to try to stop it. But you will smell. Did you see my head turn? I can't get it to stop here. Did you see my head turn towards the crowd? You didn't see it? Okay, let me run it back. This is a real critical point. I was touched by that. Back a little bit more. If I can't get it stopped, I want you to watch for the head turn when the punchline is delivered. And in her broken English, she said, "These flowers will soon die, but you will smell." See that? That's the critical part right here. When you deliver a punchline, as I promised on your flyer about this, I'm telling you how to deliver a punchline, you deliver it to a person, and you deliver it to a person that you know is going to laugh. Now, how might you do that? How might you know who's going to laugh? Yell it out.
The people in the audience and see them laughing.
They're laughing along with you? What? How else?
They're awake. So
They're awake. That gives them a chance to at least laugh.
Friendly face.
It's someone that you know is a good laugher? Yeah? What else?
Chill.
It's a shill. You paid them, right? Right? What else? They've been laughing, right? They've also been the ones that are shaking their heads in agreement with your serious points, okay? And there's another way. I know before I even get to the event because I have done my what? Interviews. And I know who is fun, and I encourage them to look me up before the program. To them, it's a big honor. Hey, the speaker wants me to meet him before the program, and I meet him. Hey, how you doing? Hey, why don't you sit right up here? And yeah, God, I'm so glad to meet you. I know where they are then, okay? And I've placed them there, and they're already friendly towards me. All right, so you take care of all these details. This is how you hit a home run every time. But deliver it to a person that you know it's going to laugh, and deliver it to one person. Don't just spray it out all over the audience, because you want that icon, you want that feedback that keeps you revved up. So, I was touched by that. What are you laughing about? But I hope you like to laugh. I hope when you go back to your businesses and your departments that you can laugh and communicate with your employees and coworkers. And we all know how important communication and open and accurate lines of communication are in our business, don't we? Okay, formula coming up. What's the point here? Communication is important, right? Now, we're not going to show it right now for time constraints, but I did a story that's a funny communication story. And then I recap later the point again. So that's your formula. Point, story, point, prop, point, one-liner, joke, whatever, point. So we're going to run through this. You might enjoy my gestures on this one. You'll see me walk over and whisper to a guy. Yeah, Frank McGuire. Were you here, Nancy, that day, or is this? I'm looking at a telegram that time instead of the flowers. And he believes that okay. All right, I'll run it back a little bit for you. A few months with one of the greatest humorists of all time, Dr. Charles Jarvis from San Marcos, Texas. And he believes that we are the summation of our experiences. And I know he believes that because I've only known him 3 weeks and he's told that to me 62 times. So, okay, that's mild exaggeration humor. He told that to me 3 times in one conversation, but certainly not 62 times. So it doesn't have to be knee-slapping funny to just get the point across, hey, this guy really believes this point. That'd be true. But if we're the summation of our experiences, how do your management experiences add up? When you come into the department, are they happy to see you? No. No. All right. That's all you. Okay. This is the. Hold on. Don't be afraid to pause and let people interact with you. They get such a kick out of it. I was determined I was going to stand there and say nothing till that person either said yes, no, indifferent, and I would get a laugh. It's called make them laugh. The interaction alone, without a real piece of structured humor, will get people laughing. If you're willing to talk to people directly in the audience, everybody else is like, whoa, what are they going to say? See, it's an attention-gaining device also. Also, you're going to see the rule of 3 here. I'm asking 3 questions. This is the second one. Yes, hold on. Are they thrilled to bring it to you so that you can solve it together? Yes, question.
What would you have done if that person hadn't responded? Let's say for whatever reason their attention was somewhere else, they didn't hear the question, they really felt a difficult spot, and just weren't going to respond.
Well, I'm very playful when I'm out there. Now, so if you're not willing to be playful, don't do something like this, because if they are on the spot, I mean, I'm the kind of guy that will go out and sit next to them and put my arm around them and say, "You having a tough day?" And everybody will just get a big kick out of it. I'll let them off the hook, and everybody will be laughing, and then I'll go on. All right, so I'm always ready to do something on the playful side to show them that, hey, I'm not Mr. Big Hotshot Superstar. I'm willing to come sit right here with you because I know it's tough listening to me all day. So I would have probably, after an extended pause, given him every opportunity, I would have probably said, what's the matter? Am I, did I do something wrong? And if it was a guy, I might sit on his lap. Yeah. So, yes, Bill.
So follow-up question. If the person has broken your rhythm by giving you a slow answer and starts to tell you a little story that's not too interesting to listen to, how would you handle that?
Well, then you turn to your facilitation skills, because I was on a roll there, and I would say, wait a minute, this is a yes or no question, something playful. And this is also a concept that, since you brought it up, is called in fun. It's explained very well in the book. It's a Freudian concept, I think. I didn't invent this concept, but it's the propensity of your audience and you to have a good time. So you want them always to be in that mood. Now, if I would have said, now listen, shut up, I'll get back to that. All right? That would have, boom, got everybody against me, taking them out of what we call in fun. So you have to be ready to nicely get rid of these things. And that's why I spend so much time taking care of these. Remember the asterisk technique that the people on this tape don't know about? Right? That's why, and you don't either, right? He doesn't know about the asterisk. In other words, Bill, if I was coming to your company, I'd put an asterisk next to your name. No, somebody explain that to him later. See, he's a good sport, and he's laughing, he doesn't know why. Okay, we'll explain it to you later. Yeah, so you have to have things ready to go in a playful manner. Now, if you do run into problem people, you've got to use some facilitation techniques, which means instantly redirect. So you don't attack them. You'd say, well, look, Alan, what do you think about this? And let Alan get on the spot for a minute and redirect the attention from them. Or, you know what, that's a great question. We're a little bit time-worn today, but if you talk to me afterwards, I'll get to that, and then look away from them. Don't give them a chance to respond. These are advanced facilitation techniques. But I don't run into that a lot because of all the pre-program work I do, all the schmoozing I do. Everybody likes me before it's ready to go. They're not too ready to zap you. So I didn't have a problem with that here anyway. This third question. Laughter going on in your company. Are you included in the fun?
Yes.
All right.
I like that.
Right, and guess why she was picked? Oops, I don't even know which way I'm going here. The reason she was picked is because the whole time I was paying attention to the audience, she's the one that's cackling, making just all having a blast. And so 1, 2, bam. Rule of 3. Third one is going to be the one that's the biggest fun. And I knew whatever she did, it'd be fun. She might just start giggling, and everybody else would giggle. So that's why she was picked as the third one. I don't know where I'm at now. I hit the wrong button. All right, I got to back up. All right. You'd think I know how to run my own VCR better, huh? All right, we're on the second question. And when there's joking and laughter going on in your company, are you included in the fun?
Yes.
All right, there we go. There. Yeah. Well, if you answered no to any of these questions, I hate to be the one to tell you, but you have a little problem, because I guarantee you humor is being used in your company right now. But what I want to know, are they laughing with you or without you? Now, I happen to be known as one of the foremost experts in the world on dumb questions. All right, this is called deadpan expression. Everybody know the comedian Stephen Wright? He's always saying, I named my dog Come, or Stay. That's right, yeah. And the dog was always confused. I'd say, Come, Stay. And then, but he wouldn't laugh. He's deadpan, and you get a bigger chuckle out of the ridiculous thing that he says because he doesn't laugh at all. Now, I'm not that way, so that's not my technique. I laugh, I get hysterical sometimes and got to stop. But whatever suits you the best. But I like to laugh because it shows that I'm having a good time up here. Deadpan expression is what we call a shtick. So people probably want to laugh, but they're doing that for effect. Deadpan expression. So I've got a few. Don't hold back, honey. I'm with you. I'm with you. Okay, ladies, what did I do wrong there? Honey. I was kicking myself when I said that. I live in D.C., and they will cut your throat,
right here for saying that, okay? You've got to watch your sexist language. And male or female, females can get away with more of it than, I hear females all the time saying, you guys, all right? I don't say that because it's not all guys out there. And the reason I pay so much attention to this, and the reason that you might want to also, is not because of what you believe about it. It's because a certain faction in the audience will tune out on you if you do that. And no matter what you say, if you make one sexist comment, they may tune out and just not listen or agree with anything else you do. So it's not worth it to me to alienate somebody for a simple language mess up like that. So, and it's easy to get around. You could say, I don't want a chairman for the meeting, I want someone to chair the meeting, or a chairperson for the meeting, things like that. Firefighters rather than firemen. Yeah, Bill?
I noticed that having made a mistake, you then ignored it and kept going on.
Yes, because I could have, with the really fun, lively group that I had, and I already had them on a roll, I could have taken them out of in fun by stopping and making a big deal of it, okay? In my mind, I'm saying I made a massive mistake right there. I can't let them see it in my face. I got to go, all right? I apologized to her later, but the problem is, and you know her, Nancy, is Gwen Woodard. She is a honey. I mean, she's a black lady, little this high, comes up hugging you and kissing you and laughing and go, you know, she's just great. So it wasn't a problem with her. But I'm telling you that it could have been a problem with some. And it may have been offended somebody else in the crowd. I don't know. A lot of them won't come up and tell you. They'll just tune out and just get you behind your back. So you never know. So, yeah. That's right. People start yelling things at me. These are dumb questions, all right?
How many of you out there like to laugh? Isn't that amazing? Virtually everyone.
Okay, now this is what I say about the dumb questions. See, in an earlier tape, we talked about the hey, stupid questions. You know, hey, you bunch of idiots, you want to make more money, all right? These are very low-level kind of questions, all right? Every two-bit beginning speaker uses them because they heard somebody else use them, all right? If you want your value to rise, if you want to be unique, you don't do these kinds of things. If you do them, you mock the fact that you're doing them. Like I talked about that old example about, I didn't say he stole the money. Well, I wanted you to know, I know that that's been around for centuries. So that you don't think that I think this is the cutting edge of the world, you know? So I want you to know that. So in this case, I use the same dumb questions, but I'm letting them know that I know that they're dumb questions, but they make such a good point. Just go through it with me. That's all that's going on here. And that little twist makes me more polished than just a standard person that's, you know, very low level in the speaking business.
Another dumb question for you. How many of you out there like to be around people that like to laugh? Oh, I would have never guessed. Would you look at that? Almost everybody writes in there. Another dumb question for you. How many of you out there like to be in a work atmosphere that's conducive to laughter and productivity and camaraderie? Listen, yeah, they're throwing things at me. Of course you do.
All right. Now, the first time I did the San Diego, California chapter of the National Speakers Association, I got an evaluation back that said some of Mr. Antion's techniques are a little hokey. I don't mind that. Of course, it was anonymous evaluation. I don't mind that because that's right. Some of them are hokey. I'm going to explain to you what went on here, but I invented another concept called dynamic range. This usually comes from stereo speakers where they want to see what frequency range that they can, that you can hear them. And I took that in the speaking realm in that I want you to expand your range so that if Bobby's doing something real serious with a toxicology group, he's going to use mild techniques to keep their attention. But if he's asked, because he's such a darn good presenter, that at the awards banquet to say, make some comments, if he does the same thing he did in the educational section, he's going to bomb because they want to have some fun. So I'm asking you to expand a little bit your horizons, be able to use something wild when it's necessary and something serious when it's necessary. Now, This is called an audience gag. And you might think this is the stupidest thing I ever saw. Well, here's what went on there. What I did is I went around to people at the break and said, and crumpled up paper, here, Alan, will you throw this to me when I say the word camaraderie? Okay, cool. Went to a whole bunch of people. Guess who was glued to every word I said until I said the word camaraderie, all right? Attention-gaining device. Then, when you are able to get what I call convulsive laughter, or something wild like this happens, the people that are zoning out on you, and you can't, no matter how good you are, you can't go forever and not have people zone out on you. Because the mind can think a lot faster than I can talk. So people are naturally bored. So whenever something crazy like this happens, everybody that was zoning out, boom, whoa, what happened? And I have their attention. So I've got all these people's attention, and I got everybody else's attention. This is when you deliver your most important point. I guaranteed that I had every single person's attention in that room when that audience gag occurred, and that's when I delivered my main point. Questions, why is it that we sometimes forget that our employees feel the same way? That was the point. If you like to have fun at work, you don't think that your employees like to have fun at work. That was the whole crux of that 11 minutes. When I snap my fingers, I want you all to yell out, hey, Tom, why do we do that? Ready? Hey, Tom, why do we do that? I don't know why we do that. Sometimes I do it myself. Okay. This is another attention-gaining device. You get people to yell something to you. But you got to give them a good cue so that they do it together. So let's try it here, all right? When I snap my fingers, I want you all to yell out, hey, Tom, you're a jerk. All right? Ready? Hey, Tom, you're a jerk. So now you remember that enthusiasm from early this morning, right? On that one, right? Just my luck. So it sounded great, didn't it? Now, if you do use a lavalier microphone, you just change the cue. You might go like this into the lavalier. Sorry, Rick. Boom. Like this, and then go like this. It's a cue to the audience to do it all at once so it sounds good and they're all involved with you. Very simple technique, and you can do a mild version. And I have been doing a mild version all day, except I haven't been doing the real clear yelling. I've been saying to you, asking you a question, say, yell out. What's the answer? Yell me out some answers, right? Involvement technique, just a little bit different, that you're yelling individually rather than as a group. Involvement technique, right there. Attention-gaining device. Yes, Alan.
When you have them yell something out, it wasn't clear to me, like just before, that your response was related directly to whatever it is that they were saying.
Oh, from the tape or from right here?
Actually, from both.
Okay. Well, I was just showing you the technique right here, but let's run it back and let's look at that again. He said it wasn't related. He couldn't catch the relationship. All right, right before this, let's see what's happening. That's where they do the gag. Things out there, of course you do. Well, if these are such dumb questions, why is it that we sometimes forget that our employees feel the same way? And I'm going to help you with this a little bit. When I snap my fingers, I want you all to yell out, hey, Tom, why do we do that? Ready? Hey, Tom, why do we do that? I don't know why we do that. Sometimes I do it myself.
Okay. It was related.
Okay, yeah, it was related, and I was showing them that, gee, sometimes we do things and we just don't know why. But I'm bringing it to the surface so that they could think about it, that's all. But what I do know is that the employee of the 90s is not going to put up with this autocratic, I'm the boss, you're the employee management style. You know what boss spells backwards? Double SOB, and that's the way they're going to learn you. That's the way you treat them. I know you're all going to steal that one, so just, I know everybody's right now. But see, I don't care because that's a joke book joke. But, what I want you to know is joke book jokes are okay when you create this whole thing and then pop one in. Nobody is thinking, oh, gee, I read that in Larry Wilde's version too. they're in the midst of this excitement, and you can pop it in, get a big laugh, and keep on going, and it makes a point that you can't treat people poorly or that you're a double SOB. So it's no problem using joke book jokes, but just don't base your whole career on them.
Now, I know that you are being faced with periods of rapid change.
All right, before we go on, I want you to think back to when we started this video and where the audience is now as opposed to where they were when I first walked on stage. They are rolling right now, and this is what I was telling you about. Don't do a stupid, unrelated joke and then disappoint them the rest of the time. Start in, do the best you can, and then keep hitting them until you drive them where you want to go. All right, it's up to you. You're the pro. They're just going to follow where you take them. All right. Oh, by the way, I was telling you about the confetti cannons. For those of you that were on the other, didn't see the other tapes, this is my fake microphone confetti cannon, and I had this little handheld one, and I was just thinking, so I was telling you about how to take care of hecklers. Remember that? Well, no, I mean, you're thinking confetti. No, I found out, did this over lunchtime, that this Magnum 44 marker goes right down in there. Yeah, right, that's right. Take the tip off, mark them. Ash Wednesday every day.
Forever.
Yeah, forever. That's right, permanent marker.
With less. And the pressure buildup from this is causing absenteeism, turnover, employee lawsuits, and stress. I read in Newsweek that the cost to business of stress-related health care is skyrocketing. And now, there's so many stress reduction programs out there, people are getting stressed out trying to pick one.
Okay, that was attribution. And this is one of the things, the more you read, the more material you will find that's easily usable. I just read that. Some reporter for Newsweek made that observation about stress reduction things, and I just reported it to the crowd and gave attribution. Now, while we're at it, I don't do this too often. I made some serious clothing mistakes in this video. What do you think, Mike?
Black suit, and it looks like a white shirt.
And a white red tie.
And a red tie. Every one you could make, I made. All right, this is the things that I had to learn the hard way. First of all, black and white are not handled well by video cameras. So you want to avoid them. Also, I wore blue today, which will end up looking white on the final version of this. If you see it, you'll know I had a blue and gray, but it'll look like it's white on the video. So if it was white, like this was, it is too hard of contrast for the video camera to handle. Now the cameras are getting better, but still you want to avoid it. And red is a big no-no. You can see it looks all blurry. Well, believe me, my tie wasn't frayed that bad, okay? What they call blooms. It just gets fuzzy edges on it. I don't know why. The video guy, Rick might be able to tell you, but I don't know, but it's just the way it is. In the back section of the book, there's a whole load of video and video conferencing tips so that you don't make these kinds of mistakes. There's one other serious one. I wouldn't wear a shirt like Bobby has on, pinstripe, or any tight patterns. What that creates is what you call a moire effect. And it's hard to describe, but when you see it, you'll know it. It'll look like you're shimmering all over the place, and it's very distracting. What's that?
That's cool.
It's cool, yeah. It could be cool if you're Michael Jackson, I guess, but it's very distracting if you're tie, and you even see people on television making mistakes that should know better. The senators and all these people that know they're going to be on TV need media training or need to buy my book. Because these kinds of things all distract from your message. So no tight patterns, blue or powder, and there's a whole list of colors that are good, even lipstick for ladies and so forth. And guys, like I have makeup on. I don't have a whole load of makeup. The only thing I put on was concealer under my eyes because your eye sockets are set back and these lights make you look like a raccoon. So I've got concealer to bring my eyes out even with the rest of my face. So that's all I did. But sometimes if it's a real big deal, I mean, they make my hands and everything get made up. So, okay. secrets for you. Well, I'll tell you what, Frank, I'm not sure they're getting it. This is just between me and you, all right?
My mother told me to avoid you.
To avoid guys like me, right? All right, we talked about this in an earlier tape and segment, but this is the whisper technique, an attention-gaining device where you go up to just one person, and I think it was Bob last time, that I whisper to you. This is just between me and you, and right now I can see Margaret. She wants to know what I'm going to tell you. Yeah. And everybody else is eavesdropping. So this is an attention-gaining device. Remember, you have to have a good microphone so that the people in the back can hear your voice inflection change. All right. But whisper to one person as an attention-gaining device.
The secret is that all the things we talked about today, the simple techniques that you can do to make it better at work, the big secret is they're virtually cost-free. Some of these folks are going to hand out money and benefits till they turn green, and it won't do them a bit of good compared to making a positive work climate. And I'm going to know this. I'll let them know this.
Rule of 3 coming. Watch it.
One person can make a difference in a company. You can make a difference in your company. You can make a difference, Ben, in your department. Well, not everybody can do this. Sorry, most people who can make a difference.
All right, rule of 3, one way to use it is you set up a pattern and then break it at the end, and you get a laugh on it. So, but you don't tease anybody unless you've cleared it with them, and that was my girlfriend at the time. So I remember Janice. Yeah. What's that? I didn't hear that one. You saw Janice before with my gun to her head. Yeah. That's kind of the way the whole thing ended, actually. No, we're great friends now. We're much better friends now, actually. Rule of 3, you can use it by making the last thing the funny thing. And you technical folks out there, that's another way. It's not necessarily 3, but if you have a long list of dry material, at the last one, you would throw in a zinger, make it funny to lighten up from the heaviness of the material.
Well, my time with you is growing short.
Oh, this one. Oh, wait a minute. This is, you have to take a pledge here. Okay. Right hands up, please. I pledge that I will not reveal that I heard this from Tom. Thank you.
You
All right.
use our own names.
Right, you use your own name. Right. Yeah, she crossed her fingers. She said, oh, yeah? I wouldn't cross those fingers. This is the cheapest, sleaziest way that you can get a standing ovation you'll ever see. This is it.
Not that I was going to get A anyway, because I get my applause when one of you writes me a letter and says, we implemented your ideas and it's working great in our company. That's where I get my applause. But what I will ask you to do is stand up. Everybody stand up. Stand up here, and I want you to give a rousing, killer round of applause to the folks that made this meeting possible and to yourselves, the members of this great association. Thank you, I'm Tom Antione.
Now, see, you'll see later as you turn the sound off and put this on your demo tape, your video. Okay? Don't do that. I'm just kidding. Okay. All right. Did you get any keepers out of that one? Yeah. What are some of the techniques you extracted? Remember, I'm not asking you to be like me. I'm looking for techniques.
Deliver the punchline to one person.
Punchline to one person. What else?
Rule of 3.
Rule of 3. What else?
Least number of words possible.
Least number of words possible to get to the punchline.
Attribution.
Attribution. Give credit to people that provide you with humor. I'll tell you one right now. I got a buddy. His name is Tim May. He's a comedian. I told some of the folks in here, I think at lunch, who gives himself positive affirmations before he speaks. You know him?
I do.
You do that too? Well, maybe you can use this one. So he tells himself this is going to be a good speech. I know that they're going to love me. And so he was in the restroom, in the stall. And he did not know anyone else was in the restroom. And he said, this is going to be the best one yet. Now, I would love to steal that line. I would just love it, but I can't do it. It belongs to Tim May,
You can attribute
great comedian. Yes, it's attributed to Tim. But it's a fun line. All right, good. We got some keepers from there. So what's next on our list there, Miss Scorekeeper? Or Ms. Scorekeeper?
10 of the 33 ways to be funny without telling jokes.
There you go. Chapter 13 in your book is 34 ways to be funny, 33 of which have nothing to do with telling jokes. You can do this. This is how I helped the guy that was the prince from Africa I told you about, using ways that didn't concentrate on telling jokes. What's the first one?
Acronyms and abbreviations.
All right, did we show that on the, yeah, I showed it a little earlier. Okay, but acronyms and abbreviations, was that on this segment or did I do that last segment? Okay, well, to explain for the humor folks that are going to watch the tape, that's taking an acronym that's in an industry and changing the words to something funny. So it could be HUD is a typical one, Housing and Urban Development, the Department of Housing and Urban Development. It could be the Housing and Utter Destruction Department, okay? So you could change them to fit. So that's acronyms and abbreviations, to use them to be funny without telling jokes. What's the next one?
Cartoons and comic strips.
Cartoons and comic strips, we also mentioned in the international section, are the most accepted and understandable form of humor across cultures. So you can project them, you can tell people about them, you can hand them out, you can put them in your handouts. Did you have a question? Yes.
About that. What issues are concerning you about copyright?
There's a couple things. The question is about copyright. First of all, most of the ones I use are from a program called Corel Draw, which has a CD that has 18,000 pieces of clip art and cartoons. All they ask is that you put little tiny Corel Draw as attribution to use them. And the cool thing about them is you can customize them easily. You can change the captions. So that's what I use mostly. There's another way. A friend of mine, John Daly, who's a very experienced speaker, sends a check to the cartoonists for like 25 bucks with I think this is called a negative option or something. If they cash it, then they're giving him permission to use that cartoon for the whatever he asked for. So that's a way to get around it. Most of the time, and you know, I have to give you that proper information. Most of the time, people won't fool with it. I think we probably have a good comment from a professional cartoonist that is sitting right next to you, by the way, Bill Costello. And I have some of his work that you'll see a little bit later that he's done for me. Bill, what would you say about that?
You should call the cartoonist.
Please, loud.
Yeah, you should call the cartoonist or write to them and ask them what their fee is. Like if I got a $25 check.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it was for like the Simon & Schuster book, I wouldn't accept that because they had to pay like $300 for a reprint. But if it was for a public speaker to use it like in their program, it'll only be like $25 or something like that.
Great. Bill Costello, you'll see some of his work later. How come it cost me a couple $100 for that? No, I'm sorry. He drew me a custom cartoon that I use in my change program. So he's a great resource for that. He's very well known around the country and I guess in the world. Yes?
Contacted Scott Adams.
Scott Adams, right? The Dilbert guy.
He has already sold it to somebody else, so he doesn't even have the trademark himself.
Yes, he's saying the Dilbert guy sold out to some big conglomerate, and he's probably very happy with the amount he got. Yeah,
Right.
so, yeah. Okay, so cartoons and comic strips, you can use them, and they're very well accepted. What's next? Comic verse. Now, what page? Do I have a page number listed for that?
145.
Okay. Turn to that section in your book, please. There's several of them in there. And again, 164. Okay, 54. Okay, 154. And what I have done there is I've given you several pieces of comic verse, but I also put the point that that piece of comic verse can make. And you can write custom ones for people based on your pre-programmed research. It's not that hard to write poetry. I wrote custom songs and things, and I wrote an article for that Publishers Weekly or whatever it is, or a Writer's Digest, that's what it was, on how to do this. It's real simple. You just find words that rhyme and put them together. I mean, it wasn't any big deal. Did we find any there? How about reading one for me there, Margaret? And tell the point first.
Okay, the point. Look forward, not backward. The lighting bug is a brilliant thing, but the insect is so blind. It goes on stumbling through the world with its headlights on behind.
There you go. So not a real knee slapper funny, but it does make the point, right? It's just a different way, a different attention gaining device to use. So, comic first. How about another one? We have another one over here? How about over here? You with me?
Sure, I'll
All right.
read one.
All right, go.
I love the way he changed this one. It says, don't worry if your job is small, with rewards you cannot see. Just remember that the mighty oak was once a nut like me.
Yeah, there you go. I think I changed it because I wanted to tease myself rather than the crowd, like a nut like you. I changed it to a nut like me. So you can do that. You can sing. I wrote a custom song for a big healthcare thing in Dallas one time. I'm trying to think. Oh, it went like this. What they did was they purchased other companies. So that's what they did. Somewhere purchasing companies is divine. If they can't do it right, for us, that's a real good sign. Yeah. So it went on and on like that. Let me some of the other words. We'll buy up every management firm. We won't even have to ask for terms. We're wealthy. And they went crazy because they were doing a great year. You know. So it went on like that. And big hit, the closing speaker. So you can go off the edge sometimes, and they love it if it's the right setting. If they just broke all the sales records and all that, they don't want to hear a talking head. They want to have some fun. So customize, comic verse, and song. What's that? Costumes. Now, believe it or not, there are many speakers that make a lot of money, more than me, by dressing up in costume. We have Albert Einstein that goes around and does a speech. His name is Arden Berkowitz. He dresses and looks like Albert Einstein, and he does the speech and answers questions and answers as if he was Albert Einstein. We got Ben Franklin. We got Abe Lincoln. We got all those kinds of folks. Who's that? Dolly Madison in our local chapter. We've got all those folks, and they dress up and they make many $1,000s per performance by doing this. If Elvis showed up, what would you think? Who's any Elvis fans here? Yeah. How would you like to be Elvis?
Ooh, he's dead.
You don't know that. She said he's dead. Would you come up and be Elvis for me for a moment? You won't? You sure? All right, do we have any other Elvis fans here? Come on up here, Brandy, and you be Elvis. Let's hear it for Brandy, who's not feeling well and sticking it out like a real trooper. Elvis, yay, all right. I didn't even know you knew Elvis existed.
Well, you know.
All right, I'm sorry. I just did this.
Sorry.
Got paid a lot of money to do this. Jeff was there. To turn people into Elvis.
Excuse me. Do I get a raise for this?
Oh yeah, you're gonna get a raise. Wait, we got more stuff here for her. We can't get away with that. Yes. Got to get the sideburns on there. You put them on, because I got to get the main thing here. All right. Does she look like Elvis? Yeah. All right. Now, I got to tell you, when I got the president of the company to do this at, what the heck's that? I can't remember the name of the company. They probably doesn't want me to tell it. Right here in D.C., the place was pandemonium, okay? Because the president and the CEO is still the president and the CEO. Encouraging him to do this, getting all the stuff together so he could do this was a massive morale builder. And this is what I educated him to, and he thanked me to this day about doing that, because he was having trouble relating to the troops. Once he did that, he's had a much easier time. So there you go. All right, let's hear it for Elvis. Is back. All right, Elvis is alive. All right, thank you, Brandy. All right. There we go. How you feeling anyway? She's a trooper. I'll tell. Let's hear it for Brandy because she is a trooper. And I can embarrass her, tell she had her first college date last night. Oh, in a pickup truck. All right. What's next there, Scorekeep? Fake letters. What page is that on? I thought. Well, we don't. Yeah, 161 to 162, and one of the, I think it's the next page, 162. There's fake telegrams, and what you do is you get somebody's permission that maybe is not going to be at the meeting, and then write a fake telegram, like. You get a, well, folks, we do have, you know, Joe is on vacation in Maui, and we got a telegram from him that we can read in the meeting. And it's Joe says, working hard every day here, thinking of all of you, stop. I mean, not. You know, or something like that, and people get a real kick out of it. Joe's not there, and you make up a fake thing that Joe wrote or a letter from somebody that matches the situation, and it turns out funny, and you're reading it. You don't have to memorize jokes, worry about delivery too much. You just read it, and it comes out funny. All right, what's next?
One-liners?
One-liners are easy to come by. One of my favorite references, I think it's out of print, it's called 2,500 One-Liners for Every Occasion, and it's a reprint from the Chicago Tribune, where they have a couple of them every day, and you can open it up in just any topic you want. You can go to the topic and pull out a one-liner for it. So it's real handy. Who all's getting that, my electronic e-zine? Okay? Anybody that doesn't get on that list, because I give you about 10 or 20 one-liners every issue, and they're all different topics. I know this last one, someone called me and said they used it the next day. It wasn't really a one-liner, but it says, you know, most people give 100% at work. 5% on Monday, 10% on Tuesday. You know, did you get that one? Yeah. So those are, yeah, those are kinds that you can use easily in business, and remember, they're short. So you can fit them in where appropriate, and even if they don't go big, then no, people don't get mad because you didn't waste too much time. One-liners are good. What else?
Top 10 and 5 lists.
Oh, this I attribute to my friend in Atlanta, Jeff Justice, who is a great humorist, but he also teaches humor writing. And believe me, humor writing is difficult. It's not easy. And he has people doing a top 5 or a top 10 list in the workshops. So it might be, you might say, what are the top 10 things your boss would never say? And then put them in a group and let them work on it. Oh, it's hysterical, the things that people come up with. I wrote one recently. I do a mailing to my speakers bureaus. And at the end, I put in top 5 reasons, Neil, you'll like this, Tom Antion is good for the environment. Neil is from the Environmental Protection Agency. Was I allowed to say that, or do you have to kill me now? Okay. Okay. And I said the first number 5 reason. Well, Tom uses many of the words over and over again, which reduces waste. You know, so you know that kind of thing. And then I got down to the last one, and I said, and Tom deposits your check on a recycled deposit slip. You know, and that was the end. And they're emailing me back, Tom, you're a riot. But what I'm doing is I'm keeping top of their mind, because they've got 1 million speakers. You know, so you've got to go out and reach out to them and show them, hey, you're a fun guy to deal with. In the same email, I gave them a big tip on how to do more bureau business. So I combined the humor and the content, and it's been a very big vehicle for me, and I think it'll work for you. What's next?
Self-effacing.
Self-effacing, we talked about quite a bit earlier, but whenever you can tease yourself about something, people seem to love you. And I tease a lot about what a dumb hick I was coming from West Virginia. I came from originally Western Pennsylvania, moved to West Virginia, spent a lot of years there, then come to D.C. Now, is there any Jewish people in the crowd here? Okay, Alan, the other one, I'll explain this to the rest of them, but I know when I came to DC, Alan, it was Christmas time, and I'm motoring into town, and I'm seeing what I now know to be a menorah on Macy's, and for those of you that don't know, a menorah is like a bunch of candles. Okay, that's as close as I can get to it. How many? 8 of them? So I'm driving, you know, I'm Mr. Hotshot businessman, driving into DC. I'm seeing this, and I'm thinking, my God, the company that put these up is going to go out of business. They're burnt out all over the place. All right, well, they only light one every day, all right? I didn't know this. There wasn't a Jewish person for 200 miles from WVU where I went to school. So the next day I drive through, and I'm thinking, I cannot believe it. They came through and fixed one bulb on all these things, you know. So I'm teasing myself about being a dumb hick, and people really light up and get a kick out of that. So when you can tease yourself about your stupidity and all the things that you've messed up and still come out okay, people can really relate to that. That's self-effacing humor. What's next?
Signs.
Signs. We see signs all the time. As a matter of fact, this John Daly I was telling you about does a program called The Wacky World of Washington, where he shows slides of signs that are all over town, and some of them are just so ridiculous. My favorite is the one that says, in case, it was like a school had this up, in case of nuclear attack, the ban on school prayer will be lifted. You know, things like that. I saw one I thought was funny. I don't know, this may not be funny, but there's a church right around here. It's called St. Bernard's. Now, I thought that was hysterical. I'm thinking that the guy that started this church is pulling a joke on the whole congregation. And I told somebody that goes there, oh yeah, you know, that's the name. There was a St. Bernard. I know. Did he have a big barrel around his neck? I mean, you know, so you just look around and you see these things. And I have a whole bunch of them in the book, along with tombstone inscriptions. I get a kick out of them too. This one was it was a tombstone inscription of a hypochondriac. It said, "I told you I was sick." you know. So you can throw them in. You can put them in handouts. My personal all-time favorite is a little bit sick, I admit, but it was supposedly seen on a hotel in Acapulco, Mexico. And it said, "The water here has been personally passed by the manager." So signs are a good thing that you can just pop in and just tell people about them, and they're funny. And you can project them, but make them real big. You can take a little 18-inch sign on a pole, zoom in on it, fill the frame, and it'll have a much different effect than it would if you just showed the little sign on a big pole. All right, signs. What's next?
Words.
Words. Your word choice can make a piece of humor funnier or less funny. The K sound, or hard consonant sound, is a funny word. So calling somebody a turkey is funnier than calling them a nerd or a geek. Well, a geek is not bad because it has a good K sound in it. So your word choice can affect your humor. So you want to pay close attention when you're developing a piece of humor that you pick funnier words. And there's a whole section in there on how to do that. But you can even go to a map. In my neighborhood, and we'll talk about Elvis, there's Presley Manor and Elvis Lane and Bonniewood, which is not funny to any of you, but my old secretary was Bonnie. So we all just had fun just by taking the map out and looking at the places around. And you could do that whenever you go somewhere with a nice website called MapQuest. I use it every time I go on a trip. I can put the address I'm going, and it'll print a map out, and I can zoom in and zoom out, and I can see all what's around the neighborhood, and sometimes there's funny names of streets, and I can use them in the program. So, is there anything left on this segment that I may have missed? Well, how about some more recaps here? What'd you get out of this segment? The last part about the 33 ways, and I only gave you 10 of them.
The signs.
You can use the signs, right?
Tombstones.
Tombstone humor, right. What else?
Top 10 lists.
Top 10 or top 5 lists, and you can easily vary that how much time you have. Well, I think we are out of time. That's my Mr. Cool smooth transition. So let's take a break and we'll come back with some good stuff on storytelling, sources, and organization in the next segment. Thank you very much.